Sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and could even keep you from the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Those of you that know me even just a little bit know that I really get into shit. I mean, if I get excited about something, I am all fucking in, which is why I got in the sales training business in the first place, because I got in and the scales fell from my eyes, if you will, and I began to see what really good looks like in a professional sales environment. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I have the keys to the kingdom when I learned it. And then I wanted to share those keys with other people. Well, I read a book, 6-8 months ago that was profound for me. It's called, and it was just a game changer, and it's called Outlive by a Dr. Peter Attia, Attia. If you're younger than 50, it won't make any sense to you. You won't give a shit. It doesn't matter. But the context of the book, if you're over 50, is that when you pass childbearing years, when you are no longer fertile, male or female, the world has nothing, you have no value to nature. You have no value to nature, no value to human life in a purely earth-centric, nature-centric world, right? And so the world then conspires to kill you. And that happens biologically, it happens chemically, it happens sometimes physically, right? As we break down, the older we get, and shit happens. Our cells don't regenerate in the same way anymore. Problems come up, shit wears out, whatever else, right? And Dr. Attia says that, it doesn't have to happen that way. It doesn't have to happen that way. That, in effect, if we play offense, right, if we stay ahead of things, then we can live a healthy life for much longer than the average lifespan. Luck outstanding, right? There are some people who live longer and healthier right now than others. And, we say, they're just got good genetics or blah, 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 which may be a part of it. But there are ways that those of us that may not have such great genetics, that may be more predisposed to things, there are things we can do to play offense, to attack, to stay healthier for longer. Some of those things include changing your diet. In fact, it really boils down to eating fewer calories, right? In America, especially, we eat way too many calories. So fewer calories are better. Exercise, and basic shit, right? Where you do certain amounts of cardio, high intensity cardio and low intensity cardio. And then you work on your max VO2, which is the highest level that you can exercise without passing out, in effect, right? So those are that kind of stuff. And then chemically, biologically, blood tests. Right now, when you get diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or dementia, we begin to treat the problem, right? With medicine, interventions, that kind of stuff. And Dr. Attia says, instead of that, there are blood tests that are available now. There are other tests that are available now that can give hints of those things to come 10 years in advance, 15 years in advance. And we can begin to do things right now to ward those things off before they become a problem that becomes obvious. And then you have to treat what's already happened. So it's fascinating. But he kept focusing on, we must be on the offense. We must be on the offense. And I was like, okay, how does that work in my world beyond health, that kind of stuff? How does that work in the sales world, being on the offense? Well, at a meta level, at a giant level, it means, first of all, understanding the game. What's really going on between a buyer and a seller? What are the psychological influences that are happening between buyer and seller? What are the power structures that happen? How can we be proactive in managing? How can we be proactive in taking and keeping control of a sale, right? From a meta level, how can we be on the offense? Understanding the game so that we can be in control, so that we can understand what's going on and see it. All right. So how do you do that? right? How do you do that? Well, I guess you can probably see, I'm just going to assume that product knowledge is a base level that everybody's got that. I realize that there are different levels of that, and maybe I'm being too dramatic here, but a lot of times product knowledge is like tertiary. It's third in line to things that are important for sales. I would tell you understanding the person you're talking to, understanding the people you're talking to at an individual level and what they're dealing with is probably as important, more important than your product knowledge. We can always find some goob who understands the product. We just have to find somebody who has a problem, right? That has consequences they've defined, that those consequences lead to personal impacts that our prospect wants to avoid or get rid of, right? What we have to understand is, what is our prospect's problem or problems? Do they have them? Do they admit them? Are there consequences to those problems? What are the consequences? Have they said them? Have they fully described them? We help them describe them. And then to the individual, how do those consequences impact that person personally? And do they care? Is that a big enough deal for them to make a change, right? So from a meta level, we've got to be at a place where somebody trusts us enough to share information that maybe they haven't even processed themselves. So when we're on the offensive, I don't mean aggressive. What I mean is being the one in control, which means we're the one that has a purpose. We know what we're going in to do. We understand the game, and as we're in control, it means, first of all, that we negotiate rules of the game up front. How does this meeting need to go? How long should it last? What are we going to decide? What are we going to decide yes or no to, right? Let's get that framed up first. What's important that we decide today, yes or no? Every sales call, you should get a yes or no to something. Doesn't mean they buy on the first time. Maybe they do. But what are you deciding? What's the step forward? And if we can't agree to a step forward, then let's call it a no and move on, right? And we have to be, again, understanding the game. No problem, no sale, right? No consequences, no sale. No personal impacts, no sale. And for us to be in control, we have to be willing to walk away if we don't hear what we need to hear. For us to be in control, we have to walk away if we don't hear what we need to hear. Your ultimate leverage in any sales situation is your willingness to walk away. Your prospect's belief in your willingness to walk away from the situation. If your prospect believes you're willing to walk away, that this is not urgent for you, you have 50% control, right? We often give our prospects control, right? Then we're all of a sudden playing defense. Right? When they have control, we follow their rules. When all of a sudden we find ourselves answering their questions way too early in the game, we're giving them control. When we're talking, it feels like we're in control. But the person who's asking questions and listening and then following up with another question, maybe related to the first, they're the ones that are actually in control. I mean, how often do we as salespeople, if you don't follow a process, you're selling based on your personality, right? You've got the gift of gab. And so what you do is you go answer every question. You go talk, hope they like you, and just be bamboozled if they don't buy. Wait a minute, I thought they liked me. That has so little to do. That means you don't understand the game. The game is you have to have somebody who trusts you enough to give you money to make a problem go away. So the first hurdle you've got to jump over is trust. So you have to understand, how do I build trust quickly? It has nothing to do with what you have in common. For God's sake, stop trying to find things in common. At best, it doesn't matter. At worst, you're just going to piss somebody off. They don't have time. The people that you are calling on, the ones that are going to make you money, the ones that are probably the right fit, they're freaking busy already. The more time you spend, hey, do you like Clemson? Hey, how about that football game last night? What do you think? Oh, I saw your fish. Nobody freaking cares. We don't give a shit, right? What we want to do is figure out, is this worth my time? Both of us, your prospect and you, are there to figure out, is it worth my time to proceed? Now, as an aside, separate from this, remember, never use the words my time in a sales call. You can think my time, I don't want to waste my time, but I want you never to use those words in a sales call. Never say, I don't want to waste my time. Never say, I don't want to waste my time or your time. You sound like a jackass. I want you to say instead, simply, I don't want to waste your time. I feel like I'm wasting your time here. I don't think there's anything here. So that was an aside. Don't say my time. To be in control of a sales call, to play offense on a sales call, do they have what we call pain? Not pain points, but a compelling personal reason to make a change, which is the personal impacts of the consequences of the problem. The next thing we need to find out proactively is, what's their budget? How much money are they ready, willing, and able to spend? Money, time, resources. Are they ready, willing, and able to spend to fix that problem? I mean, have you ever made a proposal and they say, holy shit, we're not spending that much money? You've lost your damn mind. That means you didn't do your job. Maybe you see the value immediately. They can't see the value. You didn't do a good enough job helping them figure out it makes sense, right? Part of finding pain is figuring out what is the monetary financial impact of these problems, which can be from wasted time, from energy, whatever, but it all comes down to a number. So if someone's got $1 million problem, does it make sense for them to spend $100,000 to fix it? Might. It's a good question to ask. If somebody has $100,000 problem, does it make sense for them to spend $1 million to fix it? Might. Got to ask, right? You never know. You have no idea. It's funny, I was talking to a group last night, a couple of guys last night, and they said, oh my God, this guy, he just paid $3.5 million for a house that our buddy, bought 5 years ago for $1 million. And maybe he had $1.5 million. That guy paid $3.5 million for it. And I was like, okay, so what? And they said, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. There's no comp like that. I said, the guy has $1 billion. He doesn't give a shit. He has $1 billion. He wanted that house. What does it take to get it? $3.5 million. Okay. He gets if he's invested in tax-free bonds at $1 billion, he's getting $500 million a year tax-free. Can he spend $3.5 million on whatever the fuck he wants? Absolutely he can, right? There are others of us, not so well heeled perhaps, but will we spend more money to get something we really want or something we have to have? Heck yeah, we will. Because if it's a priority, we'll figure out a way. We always do. We'll figure out a damn way. Next thing we got to figure out is, what's their decision-making structure? What's their process for doing that? By being on the offense, you learn that before you present all your information. As soon as you give all your information, you're done. If they say, well, I got to take this to the boss, or the board's got to see this, or we're getting 3 more bids, or we're going to make a decision in 2 years, thank you very much, you're screwed. You've lost the offense. All of a sudden, you're playing defense again. Defense sucks. I could go on for hours. You're not going to listen for hours. The best way to get ahead of this, and this sounds like shameless self-promotion, but you're listening to the podcast for free, so I don't give a shit. Are you getting trained? The world has changed. In order for you to play offense, you need to understand the game. To understand the game, you need training. Your team needs sales training. The shit they were doing for the last 20 years that worked kind of well, that's not working so well anymore, there's a reason for that. The game has changed. Either you need to train them, they got to find a way to learn the new way. I help companies, I help people with this shit all the time. Want to have a conversation? Call me, 803-917-2817. Your competitors will if you don't. Happy to help them too.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you're struggling to close deals, then I want to invite you to take my free mini course, where you'll learn the 7 most expensive sales mistakes that will cost you time, money, and credibility. So be sure to click the link in the show notes or go to www.7salesmistakes.com. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.